It says in the Zohar Kadosh regarding Lo Aleinu, right? When a person, the day of his death, when he's on his deathbed, what happens is, as he's about to die, come three angels over there, on top of him, three malachim. And because of that, right, the malachim get close to him. He sees things over there that a regular person doesn't see. He sees a lot of visions, all kinds of things. That's one thing, Then they say, right, another thing, which is that the Satan, Lo Aleinu, right, comes over there to him, and he sees the sword of the Satan, stretched out because he wants to take his neshama. That's another thing that he sees, So at that point, right, it says in Zohar Kadosh, it's a time of din, for a person. He's giving judgment for all the sins that he did during his life at that time. The judgment continues, right, where person, they take his neshama, and then he goes, to be buried, also, right, at the cemetery. It's a whole process there, There's also chibut hakever, when they put him inside the kever, Lo Aleinu, right, they give him judgment over there, they judge him. There's a chibut, means like, hitting. They hit him, for the sins that he did. So it's a time of judgment, at that time. That's, so it's kind of like a scary thing, but this is the way it is, this is the way the system is built. So the interesting thing is there, that, what I want to say, that a person, right, when he's at that point, they want to take his neshama, So the problem is, they say, the Zohar Kadosh, that the neshama doesn't want to leave the body, He doesn't want to go. It's like a natural thing, He wants to stay there. But Hashem wants to take him, from there. Now it's time for him to go. So in order to, let the neshama get out of there, it's very painful for the neshama to get out. So what Kadosh Baruch Hu does is he shows him the Shekhinah, at that time. He sees the Shekhinah. So a person doesn't die, Lo Aleinu, without seeing the Shekhinah. Why is this important? Because when he sees the Shekhinah, the neshama is attracted into that, the Shekhinah. So what it does is jumps out, of the body to go to the Shekhinah. So that's how Hashem gets him, to leave the body, to neshama, by showing him the Shekhinah. This is the way it happens, So once that happens, the neshama leaves the body because it's jumping towards the Shekhinah, it has a very big attraction. That's why they say, the Chazal, tell you something interesting, right? That they say that a person, if he sees God, he dies. If he sees Hashem, Hashem doesn't show himself to people, but if he does, he dies. Why is that? Because the Shekhinah, is so attractive to the neshama. Once he sees Hashem, he runs after it, he leaves the body. So this is the reason why a person cannot stand, to see the Shekhinah. There's a famous story there, right, about Moshe Rabbeinu, that Hashem told him, I'm going to pass by you and show you the back of my head, right, but not the front. You remember the story, right, in the Chumash, it's written about this, right? Yeah. So that's the same thing over there, where Hashem told to Moshe, listen, I can't show you the front, because nobody can see the front of my face and live. So what does that mean? If you see me, the neshama is going to come running to me, and you're going to die. This is what happens. So that's why you cannot see the front. Same thing happened, they say, this wasn't the only person who had this, that happened to him, this episode, where Hashem passed by him. They say, right, that when Hashem passed by, it says in the Gemara in Brachot, when Hashem passed by Moshe Rabbeinu, what did he show him? The back, right, as it says. So what does that mean? It says it shows him the kesher of the tefillin. He showed him the tefillin. Hashem also wears tefillin. So he showed him the kesher of the tefillin in the back. But the front, he told him, you cannot see. I'm sorry, you cannot see that. As we said, that's the reason why. There's another person this happened to. Do you know who it was? Huh? No, not Rabbi Akiva. This was Eliahu Navi. The same thing happened to him, right? So what's the story? I'll tell you the whole story there, what happened there. Right, so Kadosh Baruch Hu, came time that Eliahu Navi, and the Jewish people were not being mistader together, they were not getting along very well. he had a lot of problems with the Jewish people. They couldn't deal with him. He couldn't deal with them. They had a machloket, going on there. What's the reason why? Because Eliyahu, was sick of them already, because they, at that time, in that generation, they were Rashaim, they were sinners, of the Avodah Zarah. So Eliyahu, couldn't take it anymore, he just was like, he got sick of it already. Looking at them, that they're behaving like this, Avodah Zarah. They say, right, that it became so bad at that time, of Eliyahu Navi, that they weren't doing Brit Milah anymore. They stopped doing Brit Milah even, even that they weren't doing. Can you imagine? No Brit Milah. They stopped doing, So Eliyahu told to Hashem, he says, look at them, right? Look at these people, They stopped doing Brit Milah. Even Brit they don't do anymore. So Hashem told him, right? This is the reason why we have Kisei Eliyahu, right? This whole story, right? Hashem told him, you told me, they don't do Brit Milah. I'm going to show you, right? Every time they do Brit Milah, you have to go and be there. I'm gonna show you, right, that you were wrong. Every time they do Brit Milah, you're going to see they're going to do Brit Milah. Because every time they do one, you got to go there. You're invited to every Brit Milah. That's why we put Kisei Eliyahu. Because he has to come to every Brit Milah, Eliyahu. Because he accused the Jewish people, He said, they don't do Brit Milah. Hashem showed them, I'll show you they do. Don't be a wise guy. By the way, you see from here, a very important thing, which is, that they say, the Chazal, a person should not speak kitrug against the Jewish people, accusations to accuse the Jewish people, they're sinners, they're bad, they're this, they're right, they're doing all the sins. Don't talk about the Jewish people like that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't like that. He doesn't like that you accuse them like that. That's what Eliyahu did, he was sick of them already, he couldn't take it anymore. He was accusing them like this. So there was becoming, machloket, between Eliyahu and the Jewish people, So there was, this Rasha, Achav, the king over there. He was alive at that time. So his wife, her name was Izebel. Right? Right? Jezebel, right? In English, that's what they say, right? Jezebel, Izebel, right? It's Zebel, right? Garbage. That's what she was. She was garbage. So what happened was, right, that she was chasing after him, to kill him. She sent him, a letter saying, I'm going to kill you, watch out. So what happened was that Eliyahu, he says, what can I do? I can't take this anymore. They're chasing me to kill me. What do I do now? Where do I hide? Where do I go? How can you hide from the Melech? He can find you anywhere. So what do I do? How do I survive? So what did he do? Right? He said, what? I'm going to pack my bags. I'm going to leave here, and go to Yehuda, right? To Judah in the south, right? There was 2 countries there, at that time, right? There was Israel in the north, and there was Yehuda in the south. So what he decided to do was to leave Israel, where he lived, because there Achav was the king, and he said, I'm going to Yehuda, over there, because over there, right, they couldn't catch him so easily, there was a different country. At that time, there were 2 different countries, So what happened was that he left, he went to Yehuda. So, he told the Kadosh Baruch Hu, what he said to him? Listen to this, right? He says, I can't take this anymore, He says, I'm fighting with the Jewish people. They hate me. I don't like them. We don't like each other. We don't get along. He told the Kadosh Baruch Hu, he says, you know what? He says, please, take me in neshama, just take me. I don't want to live anymore. He asked Hashem, take my life, take my neshama. That's what I told him, I can't take it anymore. It's too much for me. Too much, right, nervousness, right? I cannot deal with it. So fine, right? So what does he do? He leaves, right? He goes down there. So Hashem told him, he got to Beersheba, right? Which is in the south, all the way down there. And he told him, Hashem, he said, you know what? He says, I want you to go now even more south, right? I want you to take the big trip. Go south, right? So where did he take him? You know where he took him, right? Can you imagine? He took him to Har Sinai. He told him to go to Har Sinai. Can you imagine? Where is Har Sinai? It's in Mitzrayim. Right? We know where it is. It's in Mitzrayim, right? You know where they call, right? The Sinai Peninsula? Sinai? That's where Har Sinai is. That's why they call it Sinai. Understand? That's where it was. Sinai Peninsula, it's in Mitzrayim. So Hashem told him, he says, I want you to go there. Go south, all the way. So can you imagine, he didn't have a car, no nothing, right? He had to walk, He walked all the way down there. Took him, a long time. Can't imagine. It's very far, right? Yeah, it's very far. So he went, finally he got there. So Hashem told him, he says, Eliahu, he says, you're having problems with the Jewish people. I don't know what to do with you, He says, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you a lesson now. I'm going to give you a lesson over here on Har Sinai. That's what I told him, So what did he do? He made him stand there, in the same place that Moshe Rabbeinu stood there, when he saw Hashem. Same place. He put him there. And he tells him, he says, okay, Eliyahu, I'm going to pass by you now, just like I passed by Moshe Rabbeinu. You want to see me? You ready? So Hashem tells him, Eliyahu tells him, okay, let's go, let's do it, If I got to this level like Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm happy. Baruch Hashem, I'm happy that I got to this level. I can see you like Moshe Rabbeinu. So what happened was that, he hid there, under the rock, behind the rock. So Hashem passes by. Tells him, I'm passing by you now. You ready? Okay, let's go. So first thing that passes by, right, is a storm, wind, like a hurricane, Whoo! And then fire, and then all kinds of noises, right? Lightning, thunder, all kinds of, noises. Very scary, situation. So Kadosh Baruch Hu passes by with all these things, and then all of a sudden, he passes by with a quiet voice. Like whispering, This was Kadosh Baruch Hu whispering to Eliyahu. Whispering to him. So they say the Mefarshim, the Chazal, what's the reason why he did this to him, to pass by first with the storm, then with the fire, then with the noises, and then with a quiet voice. What did he want to teach him? What was the lesson there? What was the lesson? So what he told him? He says, Eliyahu, let me tell you something. Listen, he says, you're my Eved, you're my servant, you're my Shliach. I respect you, I love you. But he says, the problem is, you're not treating the Jewish people in the right way. You're not treating them the right way. So what does that mean? You're getting angry at them, yelling, screaming, fighting. So I don't want this. I'm not interested in this. Don't fight with them. So then what do? Very simple, just speak with them, like tell them, rebuke them, tell them, Asur, Mutar, this is Asur, this is Mutar, this you can do, this. Stay calm, don't get angry, don't get excited. I don't want you to get excited. You know why? Because when you speak with them in a harsh way like this, the Jewish people, what happens, right? They don't listen to you, They say, oh, this is Meshuggah, crazy, yelling at us, screaming, cursing. Who wants to hear these kinds of things? We don't want to hear this. So he told them, he says, enough is enough already. Dayenu. I want you to tell the Jewish people the truth, the emet. But don't start fighting with them, yelling, screaming, I don't want the fights. So what do I want? Just tell them in a quiet voice, That's why the Chazal say, Divrei Chachamim nishmaim benachat. You know what that means? The words of the rabbis are heard when the rabbi speaks softly. Don't start yelling and screaming at them. This is disrespect, Hashem doesn't want you to disrespect the people. Even though they're Reshaim. Doesn't matter, He doesn't want to disrespect. Tell them the truth, but in a nice way. So therefore what happened was there also, right? The Eliyahu Navi, he saw Kadosh Baruch Hu, the back of his tefillin, as we said, the kesher, right? Just like Moshe Rabbeinu. And then he passed away. So they say, by the way, regarding Eliyahu, right? What happened was that he never really died in a normal sense, right? Like everybody else. So what happened to him? You know what happened, right? When he died, instead of, being buried like a regular person, what happened was that he became a malach. They took him, came a chariot, right? Merkava, of fire, He wasn't buried. He wasn't, he didn't have a regular, funeral like everybody else. So what happened, right? His Talmid, right? Elisha, who was also a Navi, right? After Eliyahu. He was with him together, Elisha told him. Elisha told to Eliyahu. They knew, they already found out, right? That Hashem was going to take him that day, to Shemaim. That was the last day. Because he asked Hashem, he told him, he said, take me, please, I don't want to be here anymore. Dayenu, enough already. I can't take it anymore. So Hashem told them, okay, this day I'm going to take you, right? Today you're going to be taken. So they all found out, everybody, the Nevi'im, the prophets. So they told Elisha, because he was a Talmid of Eliahu, the Nevi'im, they told him. He says, do you know, today your master, right, your teacher is going to be taken to Shemaim? Do you know? Today he's going to... Elisha says, yes, I know. What do you think? I don't know. I know everything. I'm his Talmid. What do you think? If you know, I also know. So therefore, right, Eliyahu told to Elisha, he told him, he says, listen, he says, stay home. I'm gonna leave you, and go by myself. I don't want you to come with me. Don't follow me. He told Elisha, right? So Elisha says, no, he says, I know they're taking you today. I'm gonna follow you everywhere you go. I'm not gonna leave you for 1 second. That's what Elisha told him. Why did he want to stay there, with him when Hashem takes him? What's the reason why? Because, Eliyahu told him like this, right? Elisha told to Eliyahu, he asked him. Eliyahu says, he says, today they're taking me. He says, ask me one favor to do for you before I go. He says, I'll do whatever you want. Tell me what you want. Tells him like this, right? Tells to Elisha. So Elisha says, you know what I want? He says, I want to have, you had the power to do Tchiyat HaMetim. He says, I want double the power to do twice Tchiyat HaMetim. Told him, he says, I want twice the power as you. Please give me 2 times as much as you. So Eliyahu told him, he says, okay, he says, if you see me, right, when they take me, in Shemaim, he says, you're going to get it. If you don't see it, you're not going to get it. That's what happened, right? So Elisha was going everywhere with him, following him everywhere. He wanted to get that power, double the power of Eliyahu. So what happened was, that they took him, Eliyahu. There was a chariot of fire, came, and they separated him from Elisha. They pushed him out. Because Elisha was together with him, and the fire just came, and took Eliyahu and took him to Shemaim. No burial, no kevura, no nothing, right? No chibut hakever. He was taken like this, So what happened with Eliyahu? You know what they say, right? He became a malach. They turned him into a malach. Now he's a malach. So that's why, Eliyahu is a malach, but sometimes he comes here to earth. Right? He comes here, he has to visit. As we said, right, for the Brit Milah.
Not sometimes, it's for every Brit Milah.
Yeah, for every Brit Milah. But sometimes, not only he has to come, for Brit Milah, but he has to show himself to people, to speak with them, to teach people, Torah. The big rabbis, they learn Torah from him, the big chachamim. So when he comes, he doesn't come like looking like a malach. He has a body, like a human being. As we said yesterday, right? What's the reason for this? The reason is because everywhere a person goes, right, he has to have a different kind of a body. In Shemaim, he has a body of or, right, of light. Over here, he has to have a regular body, So Eliyahu, because he's malach, sometimes he looks like a human when he comes over here. Sometimes over there in Shemaim, he looks like a malach. So he has to change the clothing everywhere he goes. This is the thing, So Eliyahu, right, is a malach. That's the thing, So that's why the Chazal tell us, you see from here, right, that always, even a malach, when he comes to visit here, like we have the case of, I'll finish over here, I don't want to keep you long. Even the case of Shimshon, right? What happened with Shimshon? His parents, right? His mother was pregnant. So what happened was that the malach came, to teach them how to raise him, as a nazir. Shimshon, His father his name was Manoach, right? Manoach. So he had to come to teach them how to raise a Shimshon as a nazir. No wine, right? No cutting the hair, no shaving. He told them all kinds of things, right? When he's born, you have to do like a nazir already. Even as a child, even as a baby.
She said, he said, you will get pregnant. She wasn't pregnant yet.
I think she was pregnant already at that time. But anyway, the point is like this, right? If I remember correctly. I'll check that out. I'll look at it again. I'll check it. Just to make sure. So anyway, right? He tells him, there's certain things about how to raise him, as we said, right? How to bring him up as a nazir. But the thing was, when they saw this malach, right, Manoach and his wife, they didn't know that he was malach. They thought he was a human being. They thought he was a rabbi or something, some kind of navi. Why is that? Because he looked like a human. You know, he was clothed like a human being, you know, with a body. It's the same thing you see there, right? So we see from there that it depends on where you are, right? You got to change your clothing. They say also, right? Also in Gan Eden, there's Gan Eden also Tachton over here, right? In Ba'aretz, in the earth. Over there, they also have a different kind of a body, you know? It's not the same body that they have here on the earth. You know why? Because Gan Eden, even the lower one, is more spiritual, you know? So the body they have over there is more spiritual body, but it's not totally spiritual like a malach. It's also somewhat physical, you know? Half and half, 50-50. ברוך ה' לעולם, אמן ואמן. רבי חנין הגשש אומר, עשה הקדוש ברוך הוא לעזור את ישראל, לפיכך חיבר להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר בהם חפץ, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.